Yeah. Sweet. All right. Hey everybody, and welcome to Pixelated Geek presents TriPod, a live weekly video podcast featuring JJ Crass. Hey JJ.
Hi.
Or
Taylor
wave or
Tate.
something. Hello.
Yay. And me. Hi, James Honeycutt. So today, which is the 14th of April, we're going to be broadcasting live on Google Hangouts on Air, which you can find via the Google Plus page, as well as twitch.tv/pixelatedgeek and the Pixelated Geek YouTube channel. If you'd like to comment or respond to any of our content, we can be reached at any of the above locations, as well as the email address social@pixelatedgeek.com. So today we're going to be covering a couple of sort of announcements of news that have happened over just the last few days or so, as well as a pretty big release on Netflix. So we're going to go ahead and start with Daredevil, because it's awesome and obviously needs to be talked about a little bit. So just a brief overview. Daredevil sort of stands out specifically because it's the first of the Marvel sort of phase titles that isn't a really major film. It's handled, I mean, with the exception actually of Agent Carter, so I guess it's a second. That's kind of more. But it's the first one that's like not just a TV show. So like when you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or when you watch Agent Carter, it's very modern and it's very tied up into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Iron Man and Captain America and stuff like that. But Daredevil is the first one handled in the partnership with Netflix. And obviously Netflix has a really good track record at this point. I mean, I don't think you have to say anything beyond House of Cards. But they obviously know what
BoJack
they're
Horseman.
doing. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. That as well. So I mean, it's in both different directions. So so really, we kind of wanted to just talk about Daredevil in general. So both you guys have seen it, right?
Yes.
I've watched all 13 episodes.
Okay. So starting with JJ, what are your thoughts on it so far?
I really liked it. At first with the pilot, I don't know, some of the acting kind of bugged me.
Okay.
And I just decided, you know what, I'll give it another shot, and ended up watching all of it over the weekend while playing Pac-Man. And yeah, I regret nothing. I mean, actually, my biggest regret is not being able to pace myself with it. I don't have anything to look forward to now. But for me, it was just perfect. I don't think you could do Daredevil on ABC with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Carter or anything like that. It needed to be darker and grittier, and that's what they did.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Taylor, what are your thoughts on?
So I hated the movies. I
You're talking
thought
about the
that
Ben Affleck one, right?
yeah.
I don't think anyone liked that one, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because it was horrible. No one should. And so I was, when I was hearing about it originally, I was like, oh, okay. Like as a hero, he never really excited me. And I was kind of lukewarm about it. And then more and more talk came up about like how it was dark and grim, and the actors did a really good job with it. And I was mildly interested. And it's not like I wasn't going to subscribe to Netflix anyway. I already have a subscription, and it was on there when I wanted to watch something. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And the way that the way that the show is handled, the darkness or the grimness, even like the primary actor, whose name I cannot recall, he treats the character with kind of a gruffness and grimness that reminds me of a short-lived show that I loved a lot, based on the book series, the Dresden Files. It really kind of like resonated really well, like a really comfortable space inside me when I heard it. His voice, like the way he talked, but there's also still a lot of lightness to it. The interaction between the characters is phenomenal. I liked it a lot. James, I mean, you were, I think, between the three of us, I would say most hesitant to look into it, because when we initially started talking to you about it, you were hesitant. You were like, oh, it might not be good, and that's completely understandable. And I think that's a position a lot of people are coming from. So what drew you? What made you change your mind? Was it the actors? Was it the setting, or was it the hype? What
Yeah,
was it?
I mean, I think first of all, my issue is that I think Daredevil is sort of a shitty comic book. Um, but there's a box that he ticks that makes him important. So I've always understood why the character was popular, and why he has like a certain amount of validity, and why they really want to keep him around, and that's because he's in a lot of ways like the most pronounced superhero with a disability. Um, and that's important. I mean, that's important on a couple of levels, not just marketability, but also because, like, that's cool. Like, that should be represented. Um, but the thing is, like, every other version of him has always been just shitty. And you have to, the thing that you have to do with Daredevil is you have to make his powers make sense. Um, because he is blind. So, essentially, like, you have to present the powers in your narrative in a way that's believable, and in a way that's compelling, and in a way that's cool. And I think they did that really, really, really well. One of the best things about the show, and one of the things that really changed my mind, was not as much the grittiness as the reality of it. It's a very real superhero. Um, with the exception of the fact that he has like the ability to smell anything from like an amazing distance and hear anything from an amazing distance.
Yeah, the
Which
cologne bit.
right. But see, the thing is, it's a superhero, so there's got to be one thing where you suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
And I really think they handled his powers incredibly well. It doesn't feel cheesy. It doesn't feel stupid. And my biggest concern was that we are talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe post-Avengers. And Avengers is the most comic booky thing I can think of. It's 5 crazy ass superheroes who all have these crazy ass powers existing in the same world, and the last one, they were fighting aliens. So Marvel has done what see, I kind of like DC a little bit better sometimes because I feel it's more grounded, and I've always felt Marvel is like really out there and wacky, and there are a lot of things like crazy ass aliens and stretchy plastic men. And so it was really nice to see a Marvel presentation that felt very real. And in particular, I like how they have separated um, New York, the Avengers New York, from this.
Hmm.
This is literally just Hell's Kitchen. It only deals with Hell's Kitchen, and like you get 2 or 3 little references to it, but it's separated and lifted out and its own thing. And then the final thing that I want to speak to that you mentioned is it absolutely is, in a lot of ways, the performances. The lead guy who you mentioned, his name is Charlie Cox, and he does an incredible job at being very real and approachable, and like not you don't get the Christian Bale "where are they" thing. Like you're scared of him because he's scary. He is a badass, but he's not unrealistically so. But the real kicker, the real thing, is Vincent D'Onofrio,
I told
who
you.
just that dude's killing it. Like he is. I'm rooting for him. I don't want him to lose. He's incredibly compelling, and I think, in addition to the out there crazy nature of the Marvel universe, I think the one thing I was most worried about that show is the villain, because a comic book villain is everything to a hero. And if the villain isn't interesting, we're not going to be interested in the hero. You want someone that's like relatable and understandable and has a motivation that's legitimate. And in particular, you want someone like there's an adage: no one is the villain of their own story. And a lot of comic book villains are written that way. They're just written because they love evil and chaos and death and doom. But this guy, you totally understand where he's coming from, and they're a great parallel to each other because they have the same motivation and just different methods.
think his assistant is more the villain than he is
I mean, he
in ways, you know?
certainly acts more like a villain. And like his motivations are
Yeah.
certainly more questionable. I really like the fact that Kingpin feels like someone who's trying to put together a city. He just is not a particularly
Nice
healthy
person.
person emotionally. And there's some anger issues that involve lots of head things in that show. I've noticed there are a lot of head related things that, ooh, yeah. Spoiler alert! Don't let your kids watch it because it's not for little chillin'. Ooh. Do you guys have any more like things to talk about with Daredevil? Any more input on it?
I just can't wait for the Jessica
Um,
and the Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
If they're as good, I hope they're as
yeah.
good. What are you gonna say,
Yeah, I
Taylor?
would just point out I like the way that we've talked around like how they handled referencing the Avengers movie that it did take place in the same city.
Yeah.
I like that they reference to it. It's just somebody's like the incident. They don't. I think there's like one mention of aliens. Thus, as far as I've been in the
Yeah.
show, they're
Yeah.
not
Do you have an iron
like
suit
the
or do you
Avengers.
have a
They're not like
magic
name
hammer?
dropping Avengers. All yeah. They're not. It's not like super on the nose about it. So I do like that they they're not just like obviously trying to like hawk their own wares with mentions in other shows.
Yeah. I think it's a really good choice to separate it, and I think because of a combination of the script, the subject matter, and the way that they handle it, make it feel like it's its own thing. And I think at this point that's good, because everything is a comic book movie, and I think you can get a little inundated by that. And I think they did a really good job dodging. Um, so in addition to Daredevil popping out this last weekend, there have been a few more little pieces of news in the nerd community I kind of want to go over. And earlier today, there was an official announcement of the next Guitar Hero. Um, and I mean, so what I want to talk about specifically with this, obviously, like everybody's played Guitar Hero Rock Band. They were two of the biggest franchises in the last generation of gaming. And just as a side note, another version of Rock Band has been announced, so we know that they're both coming back. Um, and what I kind of wanted to talk about was what like the timing of the situation specifically, and how we feel about how that's gonna hit the market. So I'm gonna open it up to both of you for just like early comments, and I'm gonna have two questions for both of you about this. So like, what do you guys feel about Rock Band and Guitar Hero coming back?
I'm lukewarm about it. While I enjoyed the previous games, Guitar Hero I enjoyed more. I played it at a friend's house. It was also a smaller investment in terms of like equipment to play a game. You're buying the guitar controller versus the microphones, guitar, the drum, all that stuff. Um, I don't plan on buying either of them. But hopefully I know a friend who gets it and it's a good party game again.
Right. Okay. JJ.
It makes sense that it's coming back. Um, you always hear people saying, "Oh, I miss Guitar Hero," or "I miss playing it," or you worked at a certain big box game store. People would always ask, "Do you carry Guitar Hero Rock Band stuff?" And that died out. That they killed themselves, those franchises. Um, and yeah, I mean, I can understand why they're coming back. I mean, I'll definitely play it, but I'm not going to go out and buy it.
Right. So I'm very glad that you mentioned that they killed themselves out, because this is really the crux of what I. So there's a guy named Bobby Kotick who used to like to take.
Your favorite person, right?
He's my favorite. He is. He liked to take franchises that were really good, like Tony Hawk, Call of Duty, or Guitar Hero, and he liked to run them all the way into the ground. Like release a sequel not just every year, but Guitar Hero sometimes had 3 different versions of it that released within the same year. And then on top of that, he liked to take those franchises that they were inundating the market with, and then he liked to load them down with metric shit tons of DLC. So there's no question that one of the reasons that Guitar Hero and Rock Band went out of fashion the way that they did because they were incredibly expensive and because they occurred too close together. And so Rock Band was the only one in that sort of organization. First we had Guitar Hero, and there were guitars. And then we had Rock Band, and there was a whole band. But you're talking about that as the entire evolution. So there was, like, as soon as Rock Band did that, then Guitar Hero released a full band kit. And from that point forward, there wasn't a real reason why they needed to release another game. So a lot of the sort of popular opinion was, if you're making a jump forward with equipment, that's fine, we'll buy it. But unless you're doing that, there's no reason for us to go out and spend $300. So it killed itself. It just ate itself. It wanted too much money. Do you guys think that enough time has passed since the last time we had one of these that these titles will be marketable again?
I think enough time has passed. I also think that how those games were set up originally with DLC back, a couple of years ago, people weren't that okay with it. Now, more and more of our games have DLC, and people become more comfortable with buying it, so that model right there works for these games. I mean, I know a lot of people bought a lot of the track packs, but now it's just, oh, okay, that's in here. Go figure. Sure, I'll buy a new track pack. There won't be so much as I'm mad because it's not part of it.
Mm-hmm. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
I like what JJ said. That people are more used to buying DLC, and I'm going to tie that into something I think we're going to talk about later.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I can relate to that personally. I don't know, a year ago, you could have told me about for example, Heroes of the Storm, a game we played recently for the stream. For a beta, like throwing $10 at a beta for a character, I would have been like, no, why on earth would you do that? But now, having done that once or twice, I can completely understand it.
How many characters have you bought?
It's 40. He spent
Not
$40
many.
the last time he admitted it, and I'm sure it's worse now. Is it worse now?
No, because I used in-game currency to buy the last one. I used in-game currency.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
We're gonna have an intervention after this.
That definitely makes me mad. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with what JJ said. That we're more used to buying it now, so it's not as much a shock. There's not gonna be a sticker shock on it unless it's obscene. And hell, you could throw it in as a season pass, and then you get, like, every track pack you come down, and people are like, oh, that's normal now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and see, I think that's a very good point. So the sort of my first question, has enough time passed? Yeah, I do think enough time has passed. The question is, do you think that anyone will care again? This was a fad. And I think that the first hurdle to clear is, people aren't going to feel like, I just bought a $300 band kit, I'm not going to go out and buy another three. That's not going to be an issue anymore. But does anybody still care about music games? Like, to the point where they would. I think you've both said already, neither one of you would buy this yourself, right?
No.
Right. Okay. So I wouldn't buy it at this point. And I think if none of the three of us are willing to pour money into this, I think we can pretty clearly say that with some, like, rare holdouts, that genre's dead. So why do you think they think it's a good idea to bring it back? Do you think there's enough of a market for people not like us?
I would say yes, because there's been a lot of things that have been done recently in terms of games releases and general design stuff that we, as a trio, have been, or as a TriPod, haven't been like super on board with, and yet they make like literal boatloads of money, as in they could fill multiple like hauler boats with all the single dollar bills that they get from a game.
Sure.
To say that yes, there is definitely a market out there for people who are not like us.
Sure.
And maybe they're hoping that the game and maybe more of like a recent pushes towards like bringing back the living room as a game or as a gaming area. It can help push that maybe, but other than that, I can't see as to why they would bring it back. Besides, A, there being a market who's not us, and B, they're hoping that it brings the living room back.
Sure. What do you think about it, Jay?
For me, it doesn't make sense right now. I think next year, because if they're going to be aiming for like the Xbox One, PS4, I still don't think there's enough of those in people's living rooms right now to justify a widespread investment for that. Like,
and all the other equipment runs on the last generation of stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's too soon just for its release. I think people want it, but with how many consoles there are out on the market, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you actually made a really good point there. The market penetration of the new consoles is still. I mean, it's better for Sony, but it's still sort of trending behind where market penetration was at the same year marker in the last generation. So I'm going to rephrase that because that was a little. We're basically what, like 2.5 years in to this console generation. Is that about right? 2.5 years?
Yes.
I feel like less than that for the one.
Well, no, the Xbox One came out in 2013.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, not the half is a little fudgy, but so at the 2.5 year mark for the 360 and the PS3, there were more consoles. And I think that's a direct symptom of the fact that we're not seeing as much of a significant leap in quality. So a lot of people still are completely happy with them. So I think your point about that is actually very good. Are those people going to bother, moving forward with it? And I think the answer is no.
Spend $400 on a new system to spend, what, $300 or more on a bundle of plastic instruments
exactly.
And a game.
It's
too much of an investment at once.
Right. It's going to have to be a trust fund baby or a drug dealer. Because that's about it. So speaking of really, really, really bad ideas, our third topic tonight involves a fighter that I don't think any of us really give a shit. But it came out today. It's called Mortal Kombat. I know. There are people that are fans of Mortal Kombat, and if you're one of those people, that's fine. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna judge you for it, but I'm not gonna try and stop you from doing it. So Mortal Kombat, obviously, everybody knows about it. It's an incredibly bloody fighter, and it's actually it's one of the two main sort of archetype fighters. So you have the Shotokan directional games, which are like Street Fighter and the Marvel vs. Capcom game. And then you have the sort of multiple input titles, and those are like Soul Calibur and Mortal Kombat. And so Mortal Kombat came out today. And in the last week or so, they let loose that there are, and you know what? I want to put the numbers in front of me. I'm going to read a direct quote. If I can actually, I'm not going to be able because it's in the Google. Okay,
you can buy Goro for $5.
Right. So the issue is that you can spend. Was it 99 cents on 5 easy to perform fatalities, and then $5 on 30. Do I have the numbers on that right?
I'll find what you said.
That sounds like what we mentioned earlier. That sounds correct.
Right. Regardless. That's close enough, and I'm pretty sure it was 99 cents for 5. So what that means is you're spending 20 cents to not input what is legitimately okay. So let me make sure: 5 for 99 cents, 30 for $4.99. Okay, yeah, that's right. you're spending 20 cents to not input what is really a relatively simple combination if you know how to play fighters. And I'm gonna get to how I feel about this since it's not just blatantly clear already. But Taylor, what do you think about this?
I think that if I were interested in buying a Mortal Kombat game, I as a setting for my discussion list, don't play fighting games because memorizing all those combinations is way too much work. They look badass. You can do so much cool stuff, but there's no way I'm going to be able to remember that many button combinations and then input them with that kind of precision to do one thing. It's just not. It's not in my interest. I'm not going to spend the time doing it. So if I were going to buy a Mortal Kombat game, and I saw I could spend 99 cents what do we know how simple the simple ones are? Is it like hit 3 buttons instead of 20? Because if so, I would pay 99 cents to do that, to be good at it, to do something really cool in a game.
It's actually like a Kinect gesture. You have to like wave your hand at your Kinect, and then it does it.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, for 99 cents? Yes, I would do it. But I'm not going to buy Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, okay. Yep. I'm glad that you said that. JJ, how do you feel about it?
I feel a little hurt. I remember going. Okay, so let's take it back. Do you remember when Mortal Kombat was great and then it sucked?
I don't ever remember it being great, but I know that there was a time when most.
Do you remember Mortal Kombat and then it becoming this weird thing that it became? So I remember going to PAX East and that it was like Mortal Kombat 9 demo unit, and I was standing next to it, and I was like, "All right, fine, I'll touch it." And I played it, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is Mortal Kombat again!"
9 was
really
good.
Happy.
Yeah.
I love 9. And the biggest warning sign for me was when it was pre-order now and get Goro. And that was a red flag.
Right, that he isn't just in the game already.
It's a fighting game. You know, characters down the road, sure, but day one like that is not okay. And I kind of got worried. And then, I heard that there were more microtransactions, and they have this kind of like where you can try out different DLC characters even if you don't own them, like limited use. And I was like, okay, that's still not okay. I like having all my fighters that I bought. Sorry. And then that microtransaction thing happened. And it reminded me of, do you remember when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out and they had like the simple mode? You could do easier combos and things like that. Obviously wasn't a paid for thing. It was like a easy control.
I actually don't. For some reason I thought that was in the Tatsunoko vs. Capcom game. But I would have never looked into that anyway. That's not...
Because I remember that being a thing, and I was like, no, this is a fighting game. You shouldn't have that. Yeah. And now to have it as a paid experience is even more what the hell.
Yeah, there's an admission, like, it is the equivalent of you must be this tall to ride this ride. There's a thing for fighters that should be there, and that's, I don't know, standards. I don't know. So I don't really want to get ranty about this or like too offensive, but like this is basically how I feel. So fatalities in that game, like the most complicated one that I remember was something like, it was like back, forward, B, and then A or some shit like that. Like it wasn't any... It was the equivalent of like a mildly complicated combo in a real fighting game, like Fighter. But it's not, like, seriously. It's the sort of thing that if you play fighting games, like if you play them, you should be able to do. As far as I am concerned, if you can't perform a fatality in Mortal Kombat, that means that you're 6 and you shouldn't be playing fighting games. Or you're fucking terrible at fighters, and you shouldn't be playing fighting games. And so, like, I get it for the people that, like... I don't know, like, I'm trying to figure out who would use it, because it's gotta be the people that, like, have, like, Gamefly, or, like, I'm gonna rent Mortal Kombat. And, like, they go out to, Redbox and rent Mortal Kombat. And they go, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I could do it for 99 cents. So, like, I can't imagine the subset of humanity in this Venn diagram that would buy Mortal Kombat, but wouldn't be able to do a fatality. Like, that's the what are you doing? Where is that sliver of humanity, and how do you... Oh, okay.
Well, the point of Mortal Kombat 2 was getting good enough where you could do these fatalities. That was the payoff.
Yeah.
It would just be another fighting game without these, and the whole point was you beat somebody and then you did something else to do something cooler.
It is like an Ultra in Street Fighter. It is like a finisher in... are finishers in Tekken or Soul Calibur? I don't know. I don't play this, but
it's your gift.
Yeah, it's the
your
thing
reward.
you do at the end when you've whipped the out of someone to further rub salt in the wound of the fact that you whipped the shit out of someone. And for some reason, I know that, like, here's the last thing that I'm going to say before we get off this topic, but in order to perform a fatality, you have to win a fight. If you are not able to pull off a fatality, how are you ever gonna win a fight with any? I mean, like, unless you're playing your little brother, there's no way. And that's
AI on easy. I can attest to that.
Well, I think
I've played Mortal Kombat, and the only ones I've won because I didn't even want to try and play players because I know I was never good enough.
Well, I think I saw
like
somewhere
the story fights on easy. I can win those, and I'm super bad at it.
Universal player experience where the good player could do a fatality and that the average Joe could do a fatality, and that's why they added this. But it's like, it's the point of the fatality is to get good at the game and do the fatality.
I seriously, I don't see how the people that aren't, because the fatalities are not that much more complicated than the attack combos in the game. And often they are the attack combo from the game with like one extra input or like done twice. And it just doesn't... There's a skill issue there. If you can't do them, I don't know how you can play the rest of the game. But Taylor, I mean, you do make a good point. I'm sure that, some people will end up using them in the middle. They'll end up paying $1 to be able to do 5 fatalities on very easy AI. Yeah, no. Just in general, boo hiss. No, done. So yeah, that about wraps things up for us today, April the 14th of 2015. Thanks so much for making us a part of your day. We'd really appreciate it if you guys would help us out and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, and if you'd show up next week to see us live on Hangouts. You can find our archived recordings on both Twitch and YouTube, and our archival podcast, as well as this one, on iTunes. For Jonathan Crass and Taylor Tate, I am James Honeycutt for Pixelated Geek, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks and bye.